I knew something was wrong the moment I walked into my mother-in-law Patricia's house. The air was thick with the artificial sweetness of store-bought vanilla frosting. Nothing like the rich, homemade buttercream Emma and I had spent hours perfecting the night before. "Mom, where should I put our cake?" Emma called out, carefully carrying the container that held her masterpiece. She'd insisted on making her cousin Lily's birthday cake herself this year, using the special recipe we discovered in my husband Mike's grandmother's old recipe box. The kitchen fell silent. Patricia turned from where she'd been arranging appetizers, her face pinched with that familiar look of disapproval I'd grown used to over the past decade. Behind her stood my sister-in-law Amanda, smirking slightly as she adjusted the elaborate store-bought cake taking center stage on the counter. "Oh dear," Patricia said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "We don't want your homemade birthday cake, sweetie. I've already ordered a proper one from Carmichael's Bakery. We can't risk having anything amateur at Lily's party." Emma's face crumpled. At 8 years old, she'd spent weeks practicing her baking skills, determined to make something special for her favorite cousin's birthday. Last night, she decorated each rose by hand, tongue stuck out in concentration as she carefully piped the buttercream petals, just like the YouTube tutorials had shown. "But Grandma," Emma whispered, her voice small, "this is Great-Grandma Rose's special recipe. Dad said it was a family tradition." "Well, your father remembers things differently than they actually were." Patricia snapped, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the counter. "Besides, that recipe book disappeared years ago. Whatever you made, it's not the real thing." That's when I reached into my oversized purse and pulled out the worn leather cookbook I'd been saving for just the right moment. Its pages were yellow with age, the edges softened from decades of use, and Rose's elegant handwriting filled every page with recipes and memories. Patricia's face went pale. "Where did you get that?" she whispered, reaching for the book with trembling hands. "Mike found it in the attic last month when we were helping clean out the old house," I said calmly, holding the book close. "He recognized it immediately, said it was the cookbook his grandmother used to write all her special recipes in. The one that mysteriously disappeared after she passed away." Amanda stepped forward, her designer heels clicking on the tile floor. "Mom, isn't that the book you told me was destroyed in the basement flood?" Patricia's shoulders stiffened. I must have been mistaken. There were so many old books. But I knew better. Mike had told me the story years ago. How his grandmother Rose had promised to pass down her precious recipe collection to whoever showed true love for cooking and family traditions. Patricia, who preferred catered events and store-bought convenience, had always resented that her mother-in-law's cooking was the heart of every family gathering. "Emma," I said, opening the book to a well-worn page marked with a faded ribbon, "would you like to show everyone what Great-Grandma Rose wrote here?" My daughter carefully set down her cake container and came to stand beside me, her small finger tracing the handwritten note at the top of the page. "My special birthday cake, to be shared with those who understand that love is the most important ingredient. One day, I hope someone in our family will make this with the same joy I felt every time I baked it for my loved ones." "That's what we made," Emma said proudly, her voice growing stronger. "And we added extra love, just like Great-Grandma said to." Patricia's face flushed red. "This is ridiculous. The party starts in an hour, and everything needs to be perfect. We're using the cake I ordered, and that's final." Actually, a deep voice came from the doorway. "I'd love to try Emma's cake." We all turned to see Mike standing there, our 10-year-old nephew Tommy beside him. Tommy's eyes lit up at the sight of Emma's container. "Is that the cake you were telling me about?" Tommy asked Emma excitedly. "The one with the special frosting roses?" Emma nodded, a small smile returning to her face. "Can we have both cakes?" Tommy suggested innocently. "More cake is always better, right?" Mike stepped into the kitchen, placing a gentle hand on his mother's shoulder. "Mom, do you remember how Grandma Rose used to let me lick the spoon when she made this cake? How the whole house would smell like vanilla and love?" Patricia's expression wavered, something vulnerable flickering in her eyes. She made it for every birthday. Even during the hard times when money was tight, she said store-bought could never compete with homemade love. "Exactly," Mike said softly. "And now our Emma is carrying on that tradition. Isn't that what family is all about?" I watched as Patricia looked between the elegant bakery cake and Emma's slightly imperfect but lovingly made creation. For a moment, I saw past her usual criticism and control, catching a glimpse of something else. Regret, perhaps, or longing for those simpler times when her mother-in-law's kitchen had been the heart of their family. The tension in the kitchen was broken by the sound of small feet running down the hallway. Lily, the birthday girl, burst in wearing her favorite purple dress, her dark curls bouncing. "Is everyone fighting about cake?" she asked, looking around at the adults' serious faces. Then she spotted Emma's container. "Oh, is that the special cake Emma's been telling me about? The one from the secret recipe?" Before Patricia or Amanda could intervene, Lily had already bounded over to Emma and was peering into the container. "It's so pretty. Look at all the roses. Can we open it?" Amanda stepped forward, her perfectly styled hair swishing. "Honey, we have a beautiful cake from Carmichael's. The one you picked out, remember?" "But I want to try Emma's cake too," Lily insisted. She said it's magic because it has love in it. I watched Patricia flinch at those words, her hand unconsciously reaching toward the old cookbook I still held. Taking a chance, I opened it again, this time to a page where several old photographs had been tucked away. "Patricia," I said softly, "I think you might want to see these." The first photo showed a much younger Patricia in a kitchen very similar to this one, standing on a step stool next to Rose. They were both covered in flour, laughing as they shaped something on the counter. The date on the back read, "Making Christmas Cookies, 1982. I've forgotten about that day," Patricia whispered, taking the photo with trembling fingers. "It was right after Tom and I got engaged. Rose insisted on teaching me all her holiday recipes." "There's more," I said, pulling out another photo. This one showed Patricia proudly holding up a slightly lopsided birthday cake while Rose beamed beside her. "My first attempt at her birthday cake recipe," Patricia said, her voice thick with emotion. "It was terrible. The layers were uneven, and the frosting was lumpy. But Rose," she paused, swallowing hard. "Rose said it was perfect because I'd made it with love." Amanda moved closer to look at the photos, her usual smirk fading. "Mom, you never told me you used to bake." "I wasn't very good at it," Patricia said quickly, but her fingers traced the edge of the photo lovingly. "Not like Rose. She could make anything taste wonderful." "That's not what these notes say," I said, turning to another page where Rose's elegant handwriting filled the margins. "Look here, Patricia's first try at my birthday cake. The layers may not be even, but her love for Tom shines through in every bite. She'll be a wonderful addition to our family." Emma, who had been quietly watching this exchange, spoke up. "That's what you told me, Mom, that it doesn't matter if it's not perfect as long as you make it with love." Patricia sank into one of the kitchen chairs, still staring at the photos. "After Rose died, I tried to make her recipes, but nothing ever tasted the same. It was easier to just order things. More reliable, less chance of disappointment." "But Grandma," Emma said, moving to stand next to Patricia's chair, "when we made the cake last night, Mom told me stories about Great-Grandma Rose, about how she used to say that mistakes in the kitchen are just opportunities for new traditions." Mike picked up the cookbook, carefully turning its pages. "Look, Mom, remember this? The time you accidentally put salt instead of sugar in the Christmas cookies, and Grandma Rose turned them into garland for the tree. She said they were the most beautiful decorations she ever had." A small laugh escaped Patricia, though her eyes were wet. She kept those salt cookies hanging on her tree until Valentine's Day, said they were too precious to throw away. Lily tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mom, can we please try both cakes? I want to taste the love in Emma's cake." Amanda looked at her daughter, then at the expensive bakery cake on the counter, then finally at Emma's homemade creation. Something in her expression softened. "You know what?" Amanda said, surprising everyone. "When I was little, I always begged Mom to buy my birthday cakes from Carmichael's. I thought they were fancier, more special. But I don't actually remember how any of them tasted. What I do remember is the smell of Grandma Rose's kitchen, and how she let me steal finger swipes of frosting when Mom wasn't looking." Patricia stood up suddenly, smoothing her perfect pencil skirt. "Emma, would you help me get your cake ready to serve? Maybe you could show me how you made those roses. They remind me of how Rose used to make them." The smile that lit up Emma's face was brighter than any birthday candle. As she carefully lifted the lid off her cake container, I saw Patricia lean in close, inhaling the familiar scent of vanilla and butter and love. As the birthday party got into full swing, something remarkable happened in the kitchen. Patricia and Emma worked side by side, arranging both cakes on the dining room table. The elegant Carmichael's creation sat next to Emma's homemade masterpiece, and somehow, they complemented each other perfectly, just like old traditions mixing with new ones. "Tell me about when you made this," Patricia said softly as she helped Emma light the candles. Her voice had lost its usual sharp edge, replaced by genuine curiosity. "Well," Emma began, carefully positioning each candle. "First we found all the ingredients in Great-Grandma's recipe. Mom said measuring everything exactly was super important." Rose used to say the same thing. Patricia nodded, a distant look in her eyes. "She'd let me help measure, but she'd always check behind me. 'Baking is science, dear,' she'd say. 'But the love we add makes it magic.'" "That's exactly what Mom told me," Emma exclaimed. "And look, Grandma, we did something special with the frosting." Emma pointed to the delicate swirls of color in each buttercream rose. "Mom showed me how to add tiny drops of food coloring to make them look like a sunset." "Was that how Great-Grandma made them too?" Patricia's hand stilled on the cake knife she was holding. "No," she whispered. That was something I came up with, actually, the summer before Rose passed away. She was teaching me to make the roses, and I accidentally dropped both pink and yellow food coloring into the frosting. Instead of throwing it out, we decided to swirl the colors together. Rose said they were the most beautiful roses I'd ever made. From across the room, I watched as my daughter reached out and squeezed her grandmother's hand. The simple gesture seemed to break something open in Patricia. "I've been so foolish," she said, dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. "All these years, I've been trying to make everything perfect, just like those bakery cakes. But Rose never cared about perfect. She cared about love," and the finish for her, and family. "And family," Patricia repeated softly. The birthday song started then, everyone gathering around the table. Lily stood between the two cakes, beaming as we sang. When it came time to make a wish, she looked at both cakes thoughtfully. "I want to blow out all the candles," she announced, "because both cakes are special." As the flames flickered out to applause, Amanda stepped forward with a cake knife. "Who wants which cake?" "Both," several voices called out, making everyone laugh. I watched as slices of both cakes were passed around. The bakery's perfect layers next to Emma's slightly uneven but lovingly made creation. The first bite of Emma's cake brought immediate reactions. "Oh my goodness," Amanda said, her eyes widening. "This tastes exactly like Mom's cake," Mike finished, looking at his piece with wonder. "It's exactly how I remember it." Patricia took a small bite, and I saw tears spring to her eyes again. "Rose," she whispered. "It's just like roses." The party moved on around us, but in the kitchen, something profound was happening. Patricia pulled Emma close, whispering something in her ear that made my daughter smile brightly. Then she turned to me. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Many apologies, actually. Finding this cookbook, seeing these pictures, tasting this cake, it's brought back so many memories I thought I'd lost, or maybe memories I was afraid to remember because I felt I'd never live up to them." She picked up the old cookbook, running her fingers over its worn cover. Would you and Emma like to come over next weekend? Maybe we could try making some of Rose's other recipes together." "Can we, Mom?" Emma asked, practically bouncing with excitement. "Of course," I smiled. "I think Great-Grandma Rose would love that." Later that evening, as we were gathering our things to leave, I found Patricia in the kitchen again. She was carefully wrapping a slice of Emma's cake to take home. "You know," she said without looking up, "Rose always said the kitchen is where family healing happens." I never quite understood what she meant until today. She straightened up, meeting my eyes. "Thank you. For keeping her recipes alive, for teaching Emma. She gestured around the kitchen, for bringing the love back." As we drove home that night, Emma clutched the old cookbook in her lap, already planning what we should bake next weekend. In the rearview mirror, I could see her tracing the faded writing on its pages, adding her own story to its rich history. Sometimes the sweetest victories come not from proving someone wrong, but from helping them remember what's right. And sometimes, like Great-Grandma Rose always said, all it takes is a little love and a whole lot of butter to bring a family back together.